Welcome. My name's Jonathan Dinger. I'm the senior pastor here at Grace Lutheran. Many of you know that. Many of you have been watching online. Others of you have zoomed in for some Bible classes or watched on our YouTube channel Sunday school, or you came to family camp, or you have maybe your children enrolled here at school and are excited about the start of a school year. I've been asked to put together a public service announcement. If you're in your mind, you might imagine that it's something like when you sit down in the airplane, and then the attendant says, "Please pay attention for the next few minutes to these safety announcements." And then, by federal law, they are required then to go through all the different safety protocols that they have in place to keep travelers safe. Well, imagine that, if you will, for a moment. That's our desire also. So we're going to post this in a number of forums, and you can share it with your friends if you have a Facebook account or Instagram or however you want to do that. But on the airlines, they often use this statement: safety is our top priority. That's kind of a nice idea, and I guess it's reassuring to travelers, but to be honest, I think I'd rather have the airlines have their top priority to get me to my location. Now, to do so safely is great. Our top priority is to share the gospel of Jesus Christ and the means of grace and words of forgiveness, and to do that as the family of God. Sometimes that's at a distance, and it's done online. Other times, though, since May 10th, we have taken the opportunity to invite our congregation and guests to come in person and worship at 8:30 for our traditional service, or at 11 o'clock for our contemporary service. Both of those options are great options, but having access to the Lord's Supper and having a chance to connect with one another personally, those are also valuable things of the Christian community. So I wanted to be able to walk through with you what our safety protocols are, because our top priority is to minister to the family of God and to those that are seeking His grace and mercy with the gifts He's given us to do. But we want to do that just as safely as we can possibly do it, but we want to do it reasonably. It's not possible that there will be no illnesses. We've been blessed so far that not a single person through the entire spring and summer who's been connected here to Grace Lutheran and our congregation and the children that we've served have contracted a COVID-19. That will probably change. But what we do know is that the safety protocols that have been given to us by our governor, by the CDC, and by Southeast Idaho Public Health have been extremely effective, at least in our setting, for the hundreds and hundreds of people that we have served in person. So while we want you to feel completely comfortable, if that's a concern for you, to remain at home and watch online, I want to at least dispel any ideas that we're somehow being defiant or roguish. We are trying to, just as carefully as possible, follow the safety guidelines that we need to keep people safe when they come. So I want to take an opportunity to just walk through that with you if you'll follow me, okay? So as you enter the parking lot, if you were to come to Grace for an in-person opportunity for worship, you'd walk up here, and what you'd find is that you'd have an usher who is going to hold the door for you. So what we're trying to do is keep high-touch areas as sanitized as we can. Now, we wipe them down regularly, but someone will hold the door, or it'll be propped open for you. So what we're really trying to do is follow those basic CDC guidelines at Southeast Idaho Public Health. We're asking people to social distance. We're asking people carefully to wear masks as they enter and exit the building and as they move around the space. We are requiring our ushers, volunteers, and staff to wear masks while they're serving and while they're within 6 feet of people. Now, once a person comes in, once they settle into place, which is socially distanced from others, they have the option to be able to take off their masks so that they can sing or participate. And of course, when you receive communion, you have to take down your mask so that you can receive the Lord's Supper. And then, of course, we're sanitizing, both before and after, with disinfectant wipes, and also with a solution that we use that has the same ability to kill germs and viruses and so forth as any other disinfectant. So all of those basic protocols are in place. Now, let's go ahead and walk in the building, and I'll show you how the sanctuary is set up. So So as you enter into the foyer, as I said, ushers will be masked as they're serving. And if you don't have a mask, of course we encourage you to bring your own, something that you're comfortable with and that's safe. But we provide these paper masks for anyone who needs one. We also have cards which tell how to continue to participate, whether you're present or not present, online or otherwise. And of course, we have sanitizing stations. There are now 8 of these throughout our facility to be able to sanitize at any time. Before communion, as you enter, as you exit, after you have an interaction with people. We also carefully sanitized all our bathrooms and continue to do so both before and after people gather. As you come along with us, you'll notice that we encourage face masks, but we aren't requiring them. The state has not required them, nor has the CDC, and so they have been encouraged, however. You'll also notice, as you go out, we're not taking a physical offering by passing a plate. So we give people multiple opportunities. You can do that online, of course. There's a number of ways to do it if you go to our website or to the YouTube channel. But also, we have envelopes and we have baskets here where you can fill those out and make your offering here. And then those are safely secured by our elders into our safe at that time. Then as you proceed, of course, you'll be greeted by people. They'll be in mass. And then there's no bulletins readily available. You have to ask for a bulletin. Again, we're trying to have as few touches as possible. But you know that we have been using our projection, and so the words to songs and all the liturgy and all of the sermons and so forth are all included on the screen as it's projected for worship. You'll also notice if you use our restrooms, we ask you to observe a certain restroom protocol. Of course, in that protocol, we ask people to limit their distance and their contact, to use the towels which they use to open and close the door, and deposit any waste outside of the bathroom. Then as you come into the sanctuary, an usher here will greet you and offer to seat you. Now, not everyone loves this because they have their seat. And we know that. And so we're trying to accommodate as many people to find their seat. But you got to know, half of the chairs have been removed so that we can have social distancing. And we're also asking people to keep 3 chairs, 2 perhaps in some cases, but 3 chairs between one another so that they have more than 6 feet between individuals. So 6 feet between the rows and then 6 feet between parties. Households, of course, can sit together. Husbands and wives, those that are living in the same home, we're able to group them together, but then that group is separated by 6 feet on a number of places. You'll notice that we continue to have hand sanitizer mobile also available for people in a number of locations. There's a hand sanitizing station right here. So as people come in, they have numerous opportunities to make sure that they are safe as they sit down and for the duration of the service. Now, of course, we've continued to have both our regular services, traditional at 8:30 and contemporary at 11. And I am offering a Bible class live and in person at 10 o'clock. It's on the parables if you wish to come. It's also being live streamed on YouTube. But so we have our organ playing, and of course, Lutherans love to sing, and that's a question for a lot of people. So one of the things we've encouraged people to do is when they're safely seated in their seats, there's about 10 feet of distance here, and then as we move up, you can see the distances between there. We've removed every other row. And so as ushers serve with their masks on, we do encourage singing once you've settled into your place. But we have discouraged singing during our celebration of the Lord's Supper. As people move past one another, we are telling people there is a cautionary note that we know from the CDC of how that can be spread in that way. So we're encouraging people to let the instrumental music or the praise band simply to lead them in their singing during Holy Communion. But otherwise, we'd love you to sing. Now, the other thing that we don't have is it's difficult for us to find a way to do a fellowship time, to do coffee in a safe way. And so people have been visiting, lingering afterwards. They've been keeping their distance and then sometimes outside. And of course, your staff and pastors are available during the week as well. One of the things we really encourage people to do is come more than once. Sometimes people go, I came and it just felt weird. But we've also had people say, but when I came the second or third time, it got more and more comfortable because of what we were doing and saying and the people that we were seeing. And so we encourage you to try to come more than once. So we're trying to make it as comfortable and as real as we can, whether it's online, we want you to feel like you're here, or when you come, we want you to feel physically safe. Let's talk now about communion. Okay, one of the tremendous blessings that we have in our Lutheran tradition is that we are a sacramental church, and therefore, celebrating the Lord's Supper and celebrating baptisms physically, those are a means of grace, and God uses tangible elements that we're not able to use on the airwaves or when we're apart. That is something that is limited to being physically present. And so here's how we have chosen to do communion. And we have heard of many, many different ways of doing this. But here's how we do it. When we prepare the altar, we have our ever-present bottle of sanitizer. We will sanitize the person who is consecrating the elements. And then we prepare the altar. And so we uncover our elements. And they're not present now. We only do that when we are actually celebrating the Lord's Supper. But here where we have the host or the bread, I will, once I uncover those, cease speaking. I then come out in front of the altar, and I will then say the words of institution. On the night our Lord was betrayed, he took bread, he broke it. And only when I'm done speaking do I then turn and consecrate the elements themselves. Likewise, for the cup, I will do all my speaking in front of the altar, and then turn and consecrate those elements. You can see that the way we've distributed the cups in the Lord's Supper is there are normally about 40 or 50 cups here. There are only about 13 or 14 cups. It requires a lot of help from our communion assistants, and so they are constantly running these elements to whoever is serving the cup. When we actually do the Lord's Supper, we actually continue to have learned how this has been done as safely as possible. Therefore, we usher one section at a time, and our ushers carefully keep our groups separated from one another. So the person serving the host or the bread stands here, and then about 10 feet away, the person serving the individual cup stands here. That way, a husband and wife might come and stand together and receive the Lord's Supper. So having sanitized, we do take the bread, but at that point, both the servers, both Pastor Jim and I, have masks on. And so we are sharing, take and eat. This is the body of Christ. Take and drink. This is the blood of Christ. So I place it in their hands. If I actually have skin-to-skin contact, then I stop and I sanitize, and then I return. But we are placing those in their hands after we have first sanitized, and then we regularly do that after each section is served as well. In the individual cups, the only person touching it is the person who is receiving. And of course, before we even begin, immediately after the words of institution and the invitation to come, we have an usher who goes along and gives everyone a small amount of hand sanitizer, and they sanitize immediately before they come up to receive the Lord's Supper. So they start here, they receive the host, they come this direction, and they receive the cup, and once they have received, then they deposit their used cup here at this place and then return to their seat. The next group or individual or family does not come up until I invite them to come up. But they are spaced out according to social distancing, and that's how we've chosen to do communion. Now, something that I want to offer for folks who are still uneasy about that practice. I can understand that. Beginning August 16th, we are going to, by RSVP, offer the opportunity, beginning at 1:30 and every 30 minutes, be able to offer communion with a mask-required element. So people enter, they use masks, there's a brief devotion, There's a prayer as we enter into the Lord's Supper, and then there's the receiving of the Lord's Supper. The assumption would be that these are people who have watched and worshiped online, and then in that safe environment come in and can receive the Lord's Supper in that way by appointment. So it would be only by appointment beginning August 16th at 1:30 in the afternoon. So I hope that blesses people as well. Now, some people have been curious about how many people have been coming. We reopened May 10th, and from May 10th up through about the middle of July, our attendance was about 40% of average. We were having about 80 to 90 people per service each week coming up. There was never a time when we only had 20 people, and there's never been a time where we've had more than 125 people. But the last two Sundays, our 8:30 service has essentially been normal for summer. So our normal attendance at 8:30 is 150 people during the school year and about 120 people in the summer. That's what we had the last two Sundays. At 11 o'clock, attendance has been much lighter, and in large part, I think that's because there are not many things offered for children right now, while we're planning to reinstitute those. And so the attendance has been very similar between the two services, even though normally our 11 o'clock service is about twice as large as our 8:30 service. So that's the number of people that we've had. And to be honest, in this space, about 120 people is about what we can do at 50% capacity very safely. We have the ability to expand into our gymnasium, but most people simply don't like that experience, even though many people have never actually experienced it. They just don't like it and want to sit in our sanctuary. And so one of the things we want to let you know is that Sunday school and children's church is going to begin happening here in the month of August, when we commission our new teachers and when we launch then our school year, which we're doing in person. We're going to do a blessing of the backpacks. So families, we encourage you to come, but you can of course get that blessing during the week as well. But on August 16th, blessing of the backpacks, and then August 23rd, we're going to begin introducing what will be happening in Sunday school. It'll be Sunday school a month at a time beginning in September, where a family can pick up materials either to use at home or during our Sunday school hour here in person. So we'll be doing that month by month starting in September, but previewing it in the last two Sundays of August. So you'll be invited to be part of that as well. So in summary, here's what we want you to know. How blessed we have been in that over the course of these weeks since May 10th, we have not had a single identified COVID case. No one has been hospitalized. Our summer school program has been vigorous in serving 50 to 60 individuals all summer long, and we have been very, very blessed. Why? Not because there's no virus present anywhere, but because we have followed the guidelines which the CDC has given us and which the director of Southeast Idaho Public Health has given us. And so we are in constant contact with Maggie Mann and delighted to be able to follow the rules that they are encouraging. So we are trying to go above and beyond the minimum requirements that the CDC has recommended. And so whether it's masks, hand washing, sanitizing, how our pastors lead, how we do singing or practice communion, in all of those things we are doing our very, very best to make it as safe as possible. And I believe that our governor has given us the opportunity to show that taking those measures actually are effective. And so we're grateful for that in the state of Idaho, to have the chance to gather to prove that we actually can be kind and gracious and also careful in providing safety for those who are here gathered for worship. We long to serve you, and we long to have the gifts of God for you. So we know that can happen by the live stream, but we also want you to know we're doing everything in our power to make the in-person experience as safe as we possibly can. And we're of course available for appointment. Your staff is working every day, and we're prepared to serve you according to Christ's command and the honor and privilege that it is to be your pastors and your workers here at Grace Lutheran Church. So we welcome you to worship, And if you continue online, we welcome you for that, and we look forward for the opportunity to share God's grace with you. Thanks for your time and your patience. Contact us if you have any questions at all. Thanks.